سلام للكون وسماح من وسط دموع القلب ورمض وتراب.
So who's this figure which we call Herod the Great? What we know about him? Herod the Great, with his family, flee from Galilee. Jerusalem comes under siege. His brother dies in Jerusalem. And notice what happened. Where you are right now here, this is where Herod the Great encounters the forces of Antigonus. They clash in battle. Where you are, there was no fortress, there was no palace, there was nothing here. Just the wilderness. They clash in battle. Herod had the upper hand in this battle. From here, he goes 40 miles southeast of where we are to the place called Metzada. That's where he leaves his family while he escaped to Petra in Jordan, from Petra all the way to Alexandria, from Alexandria to Rome. Rome. Two people walked next to Herod. One called Octavius, and the second called Mark. Remember Elizabeth Taylor? Now we are in there. Mark Antony. They take him up to the Acropolis. They call him the King of Judea. They send forces with him, enforcements. 37 BC, he comes back in the land. He overcome the revolt, and he became the king of this country, ruthlessly ruling over it. 15 BC, after a lot of construction works around the country, he started enlarging the Temple of Jerusalem, making it the largest temple of the world. He built Caesarea, which we're going to be visiting, Caesarea Maritima, making it either the largest port of the ancient world, or if we don't want to exaggerate, one of the 3 largest ports of the ancient world. He built many other projects that we're going to see along this trip, but in 15 BC, he decided to build himself finally a palace, which later on to become his mausoleum. That palace was called the Herodion. I mean, can you imagine, just from pinpointing from the bus, the size of this palace, going all the way from the road down there, from the foot of the hill, up to where you are? This palace was visible from Jerusalem. And there was a wise man who went on a pilgrimage to Jerusalem by the name of Jesus. They climbed up the eastern part of the Mount of Olives. For the Galileans, those of them who were coming perhaps up to Jerusalem for the first time, or maybe coming with their children for the first time, they were pointing from Jerusalem this palace. And they told their children, look over there, can you see that volcanic shaped hill, that crater? Can you see the fortification on the top? Can you see the tower which is there behind you? Look at the round tower behind you. That's what Herod the Great built. And one man was walking amid them, who the people have already seen as a prophet, as a wise man. Some have seen him as a Messiah. His name was Jesus. He looks back at the crowd and he tells them, if you have a little bit of faith, you can tell this mountain to move from here back to where it came from. Because Herod the Great, a hill nearby, he literally chopped it off and moved it up here. A mountain was moved from one place to another, literally. So with a little bit of faith, all this great construction work, that's literally what Jesus was pointing out. You can order it back again to where it came from. Remember, Jesus did not speak Chinese. He pointed every little thing he spoke about. Where was Herod when the Magi came to him? It's a big question, by the way. Most probably it was Jerusalem, at the capital. But if he was not at the capital, the only second alternative place would be here, nearby Bethlehem. Jerusalem also is not far away from Bethlehem. You have to remember, Herodion and Jerusalem are exactly the same distance away from Jerusalem, which is more or less around 6 miles. So Jerusalem and Herodion are about 6 miles away from Bethlehem. But if it was in Jerusalem, it would have been in a hall like this one, what we call the royal reception hall, that Herod the Great would have received these Magi who came seeking the newly born Christ. In the year 6 BC, the Magi most probably did reach Jerusalem on the 4th of December of the year 6 BC, when the child was already a bit over 6 months old. Interesting enough, when we look over here at the royal hall, try to look at the tiles which are on the pictures, all these tiles, we did find them. Actually, we have them at the exhibition in Jerusalem right now over there, which is known as the opus sectile. You can see the tiles over there, black and white. When we go to Mitzada, we're going to show you something which is very similar to this. One thing to mention, this fortress was taken over by the rebellionists, that is of the Great Revolt in the year 66 AD, because from the year 6 AD, now notice what we're coming to, into what we call living at the time of Jesus. Herod the Great died in the year 4 BC. He died in Jericho. His funeral went all the way from Jericho up to here where he was buried at. That's like a 3 days journey. Very well described by Josephus Flavius. After his death, the country was divided between 3 of his sons. Judea, where you are, was ruled by his son who was called Archelaus. We hear in the Bible that the angel appears to Joseph in a dream telling him that Herod the Great have died so he can go safely back home. When Joseph came back with Mary and the child, he found that Archelaus, notice, Joseph was planning to come back and live in Bethlehem because there was a good job for him in Jerusalem.
وسلام للكون وسماح من وسط دموع القلب ورماد وتراب وجراح جايين برسالة حب وسلام للكون وسماح.
قلبنا مجروح ولكنه بيصلي لرب قدير واثقين في إرادته إنه بيجهز لينا الخير.
قلبنا مجروح ولكنه بيصلي لرب قدير واثقين في إرادته إنه بيجهز لينا الخير.
بنرنم وسط وبنطلب مجده يبان حقنا سايبينه معاه ورجائنا معاه في ضمان.
بنرنم وسط
وبنطلب مجده يبان حقنا سايبينه معاه ورجائنا معاه في ضمان. كتابه ده لينا دليل وكلامه شاهد على وعده. أبواب جحيم بيزيد لو وقفت قدام شعبه.
كتابه ده لينا دليل كلامه شاهد على وعده.
أبواب جحيم بيزيد لو وقفت قدام شعبه.
وإيماننا بربنا ولا شيء في الدنيا يهزه والمر في عنا ده شك قابلينه علشان اسمه.
وإيماننا بربنا ولا شيء في الدنيا يهزه والمر في عنا ده شك
قابلينه علشان اسمه.
للشدة في أوقات